Okay, we've all been there, right? You've got this game-changing idea, a brilliant new plan, but getting your team on board feels like hitting a brick wall. Well, today, we're going to break down that wall. We're looking at a framework that reveals the secret to making new ideas actually stick.
So you've got this great plan, but almost immediately, you're met with resistance. It's one of the most common and honestly most frustrating things in any workplace. Why does this happen over and over again? The answer isn't that your idea is bad. It's that you're in a battle of invisible forces.
You know, the best way to think about it is like this. Every single attempt to change is a tug of war. That's it. On one side, you have all the forces pulling for something new. And on the other, you have all the forces pulling to keep things exactly as they are.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. This whole idea comes from a model called force field analysis. So on one side of the rope, you've got your driving forces. These are the winds of change at your back, pushing for the new idea. Think better efficiency, new company goals, or even pressure from the market. But on the other side, you have the restraining forces, and these are like anchors holding you in place. We're talking about old habits, feeling comfortable with the way things are, or just a fear of the unknown.
So why do things stay the same, even when you're pushing a really good idea? Well, it's because these two sets of forces are often in a state of equilibrium. The push for change is being matched perfectly by the pull of resistance. You're in a stalemate. And to create any real change, you have to break this equilibrium and tip the balance in your favor.
And what's our gut reaction when we hit that stalemate? We double down. We add more pressure, right? More deadlines, more meetings explaining why everyone should just get on board. We basically grab our end of the rope and just pull harder, totally convinced that more force is the answer.
But here's the crucial insight, and honestly, it's a total game changer. The smarter strategy isn't to pull harder, it's to simply make the other team weaker. The most effective way to win this tug of war is to focus on reducing or even removing those restraining forces. Let's see how this actually plays out.
So how does this all work in the real world? Let's take a look at a pretty classic change management challenge, a company trying to roll out a new and much-needed digital HR system.
Okay, so the driving forces here are super clear and logical. Management wants this new system because it means faster processing, way fewer errors than the old paperwork system, and of course, better data for making smarter decisions. These are all the good, solid reasons pushing for the change. But on the other side of that rope, you have real people with real fears. They're thinking, what if I can't learn this new system? Am I going to look incompetent in front of my team? Is this just going to slow us all down when we're already swamped? Look, these aren't irrational complaints. They're powerful, very human, restraining forces.
And this quote just nails what happens if management decides to just crank up the pressure. If they ignore those fears and just push harder with deadlines, what happens? The resistance actually gets stronger, morale tanks, and you're left with this toxic stalemate where absolutely nobody wins.
So what's the smarter play here? Weaken those restraining forces. Instead of just pushing, you start removing the obstacles. First, provide real, hands-on training to directly fight that fear of the unknown. Second, adjust the workload so people have the actual time to learn without panicking. And third, and this one is huge, find some respected employees to become champions who can prove to their peers that it's not so scary after all.
And just like that, the whole balance shifts. By addressing the fears head-on and removing the friction, you've unlocked the change. Those restraining forces shrink, and suddenly the original driving forces are powerful enough to win the tug-of-war. No shouting required.
Okay, so this isn't just a story about some HR system. It's a blueprint that you can use for pretty much any change you're trying to make, big or small.
I want you to think of this force field analysis as your diagnostic tool. Before you even launch any initiative, you can use it to literally map out the battlefield. I mean it. Take out a piece of paper. On one side, list all the driving forces. On the other, list all the restraining forces. This simple exercise gives you a stunningly clear picture of what you're really up against.
And that really leaves us with this final thought. The next time you're facing resistance to a new idea, don't just think about all the reasons why it should happen. Instead, ask yourself, what are the anchors holding this whole thing back? Then, instead of just pushing harder, look for the ropes you can cut. Because if you do that, you might just find the winds of change were in your favor all along.